The Man at the Window, horror enhanced version. I've always believed some memories never die. They don't live in your brain. They live somewhere far darker, somewhere between sleep and death. A place where fear is the only thing that keeps them breathing. I know this because one of those memories belongs to me, and it has followed me since childhood. It all began when I was 7. 1. The first nightmares. The first nightmare came on a winter night. I woke up, or at least I thought I did, and realized something was terribly wrong. I wasn't inside my body. My vision hovered at the ceiling like a silent camera. Below me, my small body lay twisted beneath a crooked blanket. The digital alarm clock glowed its usual angry red. Except the numbers were counting backwards 0200 to 0159 to 0158. No ticking. No sound. Just that crimson glow bleeding across my face. I wanted to scream, but I had no voice. I could only watch. Then my sleeping body opened its eyes, but it wasn't looking at the ceiling. It was staring straight at the window. A chilling awareness slid through me. Something was standing out there. I couldn't see a shape. I could only feel it, pressing against the dark. The nightmare ended the instant the figure touched the glass. But the next night, it returned. Then the next, and the next, for years. 2. Disturbing details. Each nightmare repeated itself, but always with something new. A toy I'd thrown away years earlier lying on the floor in the dream. A wax crayon drawing of strangers holding hands under a green roof. A chair slightly misaligned, even though I knew I had fixed it. Then one night, the window was open. I woke screaming, drowning in sweat. The wooden floor burned cold beneath my feet as I stumbled toward the window. I touched the sill. A shock of icy dread stabbed through my palm, because on that dusty sill was a long, smeared handprint, as if someone had leaned in to push the window wider. 3. My parents begin to fear. I told my parents. My mother laughed it off, the way mothers do when they don't want to believe their child. But my father, he reacted differently. When I described the long scar on the man's forehead, the one I saw in the dream, my father turned to stone. He repeated the same questions over and over. Are you sure? Which side of the forehead? How long was the scar? That night, he and my mother whispered in the living room for hours, their voices shaking the walls. A week later, my father finally spoke the truth. 4. The truth about Uncle Brian. When I was a toddler, my parents had an old friend babysit me. Uncle Brian. I remembered none of it, but they told me. I followed him everywhere. I cried whenever he left. I only slept if he held me. Until one day, something happened. Something serious. And he disappeared from our lives forever. They never told me what happened. But they did tell me one thing. He had a long scar on his forehead. Exactly where I saw it in my nightmares, I asked the obvious question. If he wasn't allowed near us anymore, how could he be standing outside my window? My father stared at me for a long, painful moment. That's impossible, he said. You're just dreaming. But his trembling voice betrayed him. 5. The final dream. Memory or warning? When I turned 10, the nightmare returned. But everything was different. This time I wasn't floating near the ceiling. I was standing in my room, barefoot, right beside the window, and outside the window, only inches away, stood a man. He leaned in close, his head tilted at an unnatural angle, a crooked smile dragging across his face. He lifted a finger and tapped the glass. Tap. 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 I couldn't move. My limbs were frozen with terror. Then he spoke. Do you remember me? His voice slithered through the glass, thin, cold, wrong, like wind forcing its way through a crack in the wall. I looked down. A tiny hand was wrapped around his. A child. I couldn't see its face, but I knew with every bone in my body that it was me at age 3. I woke up screaming. My father ran outside. When he returned, his face had drained of all color. Beneath the window were 2 sets of footprints, one large, one small, the exact size of a 3-year-old's foot. But the smaller prints were on the outside, where no child had ever walked. After that night, the nightmares stopped. But every time I look at a window, I still fear I'll see a tiny, pale hand rest on the sill. Just like it did in my dream. Just like it once did in the snow.